The hospital room smells like bleach and fear. I'm half conscious, my chest still heavy from the sedatives, when my phone vibrates on the plastic table beside the bed. The screen glows in the dim light. Text from Adrian, my boss. You're done here. Don't bother coming back. I read it 3 times, thinking maybe the medication is making me misread words. But no. Clear. Final. Cold. I screenshot it with shaking hands and send it to Harper, my lawyer. I'd hired her months ago for something unrelated, a contract dispute, but something in my gut told me to keep her number handy at work. Her response comes within seconds. Do not respond to him. He just made a serious legal mistake. I stare at that message. What mistake? I'm lying in a hospital bed after collapsing at work, and my boss just fired me via text. What could possibly make that illegal? My heart rate monitor beeps faster. Let me back up. My name is Mara Collins. I'm 32 years old, and I've spent the last 5 years as an operations coordinator at Vertex Financial Solutions, a mid-sized firm that manages investment portfolios for wealthy clients. The job is detail-oriented, demanding, and for the most part I was good at it. More than good. I was the person who kept everything running. I'm the one who organized files when the system crashed. I'm the one who caught discrepancies in invoices. I'm the one who caught discrepancies in invoices. I'm the one people came to when they needed something done right, done fast, done quietly. That last part became a problem. About 8 months ago, Adrian started asking me to do things that didn't feel right. He'd call me into his office, a corner suite with views of the city, and slide folders across his glass desk like we were in a spy movie. Mara, he'd say, leaning back in his chair like he was about to ask me something casual, I need you to process this consulting expense. It's a bit unusual, but it's important for the company. The first time, it was a request to validate a $480,000 consulting contract from a company I'd never heard of. No name on the contract. No actual work described. Just a number and a signature. I looked at Adrian and said the word that changed everything. No. The next morning HR called me into a meeting. I walked in expecting a normal discussion, but the energy was different. Hostile. A woman named Caroline from HR was sitting at the conference table with a folder open in front of her, her jaw tight. Mara, she said, not looking up, we've discovered a significant error in your work. A shipment valued at $62,000 went missing last month. Records show you were the last person to touch the documentation. My stomach dropped. I had never handled that shipment. I knew every file I touched, every transaction I processed. This wasn't mine. But I was smart enough to stay quiet. Caroline slid a warning form across the table. We need you to sign this acknowledging the error. It goes in your personnel file. I didn't touch the pen. I'll need to review the evidence, I said, keeping my voice calm. I want to see the documentation you're referring to. Caroline's face flushed. That won't be necessary. We have it on file. Then you won't mind showing it to me, I replied. The meeting ended 5 minutes later, with nothing signed and nothing resolved. But I understood what had happened. Adrian was setting me up. Question was why? And more importantly, what could I do about it? 2 days later, another meeting. This time, Adrian was in the room with Caroline and a man I didn't recognize. Someone from the corporate legal team, apparently. They looked like they were expecting me to crumble. Instead, I walked in with my own folder. Before we discuss anything, I said, sitting down across from them, I want to clarify the chain of events. The shipment discrepancy you're referencing. I want documentation of when it was first discovered, who discovered it, and what evidence ties it to me. Adrian's jaw ticked. His eye twitched slightly. Mara, Caroline began. This isn't an interrogation. I know it's not, I interrupted. Because if it were, I'd have called my lawyer. I'm simply asking for the evidence you're basing an accusation on. The 3 of them exchanged looks. The legal guy cleared his throat. The evidence isn't, fully compiled yet. We're still gathering documentation. Then we can reschedule when it is, I said, standing up. I'm not signing anything without seeing proof. I left that meeting feeling something shift inside me. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else. Clarity. They were panicking because they knew I had the upper hand. The question was whether I knew it too. As I walked back to my desk, Leah from accounting caught my arm. Leah was one of the few people at Vertex I actually trusted. She was sharp, observant, and terrified of Adrian, which meant she noticed everything he did. "Mara," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "He wants you gone before the audit." My blood went cold. "What audit?" I asked. She shook her head. "I don't know the details. I overheard HR on the phone. They said something about conducting an internal audit, and that it was confidential. But then Adrian came by and suddenly everyone was talking about your shipment error instead." She squeezed my arm and hurried away before anyone noticed we'd been talking. I stood at my desk for a long moment, staring at my computer screen without seeing it. An audit. Adrian wanted me gone before an audit. The $480,000 consulting expense. The fake shipment error. The sudden hostility. It all clicked into place. Adrian wasn't trying to punish me for refusing his request. He was trying to destroy me before I could testify about what he'd asked me to do. I spent that night researching. The board of directors at Vertex met quarterly, and those meetings were documented on the company intranet. I pulled up the minutes from the last meeting, the one held 3 weeks ago. There it was, buried in a footnote. The board has authorized a comprehensive financial review of all departmental expenses for the fiscal year. An audit. An official one. And it had been authorized the same week Adrian asked me to validate that $480,000 consulting expense. My hands were shaking. The auditor's email arrived the next morning. It was directed to all department heads, but it had been forwarded to me by accident, or maybe on purpose, I couldn't tell. "We will be requesting all documentation related to consulting contracts, vendor payments, and expense allocations. Please ensure your team compiles all relevant files by Friday." And then, buried in the signature block, "We have some specific questions about contracts processed by the operations department." Adrian had asked me to hide something. And now, an auditor was coming to look for exactly that thing. He was running out of time. And so was I. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my personal laptop and made a decision. It wasn't revenge I was planning. It was survival. I logged into my work email from home, something I did regularly so it wouldn't look suspicious, and I began forwarding files to my personal Google Drive. Meeting notes, email chains. The original request from Adrian asking me to process the consulting expense. Everything. I created a folder labeled Insurance and organized it chronologically. My heart was racing the entire time, even though I was doing nothing illegal. I had authorized access to these files. This was documentation of my own work. But it felt like theft. It felt like I was preparing for war. The next morning at work, I was organizing a filing system when Adrian walked past my desk. He stopped. "Stop touching old files," he said. It wasn't a request. It was a command. I looked up at him, my hands still on the keyboard. "I'm organizing the records for the audit," I said calmly. His face went pale. "Don't touch anything without asking me first." He walked away before I could respond. The fact that he knew I'd been in those files, when he had no legitimate reason to monitor my work, told me everything I needed to know. He was guilty, and he was watching me. The stress built over 2 weeks like pressure in a sealed container. I wasn't sleeping. I was checking my phone constantly, waiting for the next accusation, the next setup. I was documenting everything, backing up files, and trying to act normal while feeling like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. On a Tuesday morning, I was in a meeting reviewing quarterly projections when my chest tightened. Not a normal tightness. Something was wrong inside my body. I stood up too quickly. The room spun. My vision darkened at the edges. I remember Leah's face, surprised and scared. I remember someone calling 911. I remember the floor approaching and then nothing. When I woke up, the ceiling was white and the smell was clinical. Hospital. Machines beeping around me. and 4 in my arm. The doctor said it was stress-induced chest pain, possibly a panic attack, but they wanted to keep me overnight for observation. My heart was fine, but my mind had betrayed me. I was alone in that room, watching the sun set through the window, when my phone vibrated. Adrian, you're done here. Don't bother coming back. He'd fired me from my hospital bed. And that's when I knew. He was more afraid than I was. I sent the text to Harper immediately. Her response: do not respond to him. He just made a serious legal mistake. That night, Harper worked from her office while I lay in a hospital bed. The next morning, I received a forwarded email showing Harper's formal response to Adrian. She'd sent it through the company's legal contact, copying the HR department. My client was hospitalized yesterday due to work-related stress and medical complications. Her termination via personal text message, while she is on medical leave, constitutes wrongful termination under both state and federal employment law. Any further communication regarding her employment status should come through me. It was professional. It was calm. It was devastating. Adrian's response came within an hour. Mara accessed restricted files without authorization. That's the real reason for termination. She violated company policy. But Harper had anticipated this. Her next email arrived almost immediately. Ms. Collins had authorized access to all files in her department. Accessing work-related documentation as part of her regular duties is not a violation. However, terminating an employee on medical leave in retaliation for filing a complaint or participating in an audit investigation would constitute a federal labor violation. We are prepared to pursue all available remedies. Then silence. Adrian didn't respond again. I was released from the hospital on a Thursday. Harper picked me up herself, which was unusual. Normally, everything was handled over email or phone calls. He stopped responding, she said as I settled into her car. That's significant. It means he's panicking. What does that mean for me? Yes. It means he's realized he made a mistake, and now he's trying to figure out how to minimize the damage. People in that position either back down or they escalate. With someone like Adrian, it's almost always escalation. She was right. By Friday, the board of directors reached out to me directly. Not through HR. Not through Adrian. Directly. A board member named Oliver called my home phone, not my cell phone, which meant he'd gone to great lengths to contact me privately. Ms. Collins, we need to speak with you about some matters that have come to our attention. Can you speak confidentially? My voice was shaky when I said yes. We're aware of your termination and the circumstances surrounding it. We're also aware of a financial irregularity that requires your immediate cooperation. How soon can you meet with us? I looked at Harper, who was sitting across from me with her laptop open, already documenting the call. Tomorrow, I said. I can meet tomorrow. The boardroom was exactly what I expected. Mahogany table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Oliver was there, along with 2 other board members, a woman named Michelle and an older man named Gregory. Harper sat beside me. Thank you for coming, Oliver began. Before we start, I want to be clear. Nothing you say here will be used against you. You have full legal protection. We are investigating your boss, not you. My hands unclenched slightly. Michelle opened a laptop. We received a call from the internal audit team 2 days ago. They've uncovered significant financial irregularities in Adrian's department. Specifically, unauthorized transfers and contracts that don't match company records. One of those contracts, Gregory added, leaning forward, is a $480,000 consulting agreement that was never legitimately approved. We also found documentation indicating that you were asked to process this contract but refused. I nodded slowly. More concerning, Oliver continued, is that your boss has been blaming you for the discrepancies. He claims you initiated the unauthorized transfers and that the shipment error was due to your negligence. The room felt like it was tilting. Harper placed her hand on my arm. Tell them what happened. So I did. I told them about the request. About my refusal. About the fake shipment error that appeared days later. About being called into meetings where evidence mysteriously wasn't available yet. The board members listened without interrupting. When I finished, Oliver said, "Do you have documentation of these interactions?" I pulled out my phone and showed them the folder I'd created. Emails, meeting notes, audio recordings I'd made of conversations with Adrian, all of which were legal in our state. Michelle's eyes widened as she scrolled through the files. "This is comprehensive," she said quietly. "We need to ask you something difficult," Oliver said. "Are you willing to fully cooperate with the audit investigation? We'll provide legal protection and job security, but it will likely result in criminal charges against your boss." I thought about the hospital bed, text message, the fear and the pain. "Yes," I said. "I'm willing." The cooperation agreement was drawn up by the company's legal team, reviewed by Harper, and signed within 48 hours. In exchange for my full cooperation, Vertex agreed to 1. Reinstate me to my position immediately. 2. Provide legal representation at company expense. 3. Place me on paid leave until the investigation concluded. 4. Guarantee no retaliation. There was one condition I insisted on. Nothing they learned from me could be used against me. Any immunity I could get, I wanted it in writing. Harper made sure they understood. They did. The investigation team assembled that same week. 2 external auditors, a corporate investigator, and a representative from the state's employment board. They began with the files I provided. Then they went deeper. They pulled bank records. They interviewed employees. They examined every transaction Adrian had authorized over the past 2 years. And they found something I hadn't expected. The auditor, a sharp woman named Ellen, sent me an email. "We need the original version of the contract file. The one in the system has been modified. Do you have an unaltered copy?" I did. 'Cause I had saved everything. The file Adrian had asked me to make disappear was gone from the company servers. Completely deleted. He'd probably hired an IT person to remove it, thinking that would be enough. But I had saved the original to my personal drive months ago, back when my instinct was telling me something was wrong. I sent Ellen the untouched version. Then I sent something more powerful, an audio recording. It was from 6 months earlier, a conversation I'd recorded, legally, in my office. Adrian had stopped by, closed the door, and said the words that sealed his fate. "This consulting contract needs to be processed and then completely removed from the system. No trace. Do you understand? Make it disappear." My voice on the recording, calm and professional. "I can't do that, Adrian. That's not legitimate." His voice, sharp and threatening. "You work for me, Mara. And if you can't follow simple instructions, maybe you shouldn't work here." The recording lasted 45 seconds. It was everything they needed. Ellen called me the next day. "This is the smoking gun. With this recording and the documentation you've provided, we have a clear case of fraud, attempted obstruction, and witness intimidation." My hands were shaking as I listened. "What happens now?" "Yes. Now," she said, "we present everything to the board, and they make a decision about criminal referral." Adrian must have sensed something was wrong. Maybe an IT person told him his files had been accessed. Maybe someone leaked information about the investigation. Maybe he just felt the walls closing in. On a Thursday morning, an email went out to the entire company. The subject line was, "Important clarification regarding recent matters." The content was chaos. "To all Vertex employees," it began, "I want to clarify that there have been some misunderstandings regarding departmental procedures and financial processes. Some employees, acting without proper authorization, have made accusations that are completely without merit. I am confident that a full investigation will clear my name, and those responsible for spreading false information will be held accountable." It was rambling, defensive, panic. Coworkers started messaging me immediately. What was this about? What accusations? The company was buzzing with confusion and suspicion. That same afternoon, HR reached out to me. Adrian claims you admitted fault regarding the financial discrepancies. Can you confirm or deny this statement? Harper responded before I could. Our client adamantly denies making any such admission. In fact, she has documented evidence of conversations in which she explicitly refused to participate in unauthorized financial activities. We have recordings. The silence from HR was deafening. By Friday, the board had scheduled an emergency executive meeting. Adrian was not invited. The board wanted to hear directly from me. This time I wasn't in a boardroom. I was on a Zoom call from my apartment, with Harper sitting beside me. Oliver, Michelle, and Gregory were on the screen, along with Ellen from the audit team and a woman I hadn't met before, the company's outside counsel. Thank you for joining us, Oliver said. We've reviewed all documentation related to the investigation. Before we proceed with any formal action, we want to confirm the facts directly from you. I walked them through everything again, but this time with more detail. Timeline, the conversations, the reasoning behind my refusal. And then Ellen played the recording for the board. The room on the screen went completely silent. When it ended, Gregory said, "That's incredibly clear." The outside counsel, whose name was Angela, leaned forward. "I need to ask you directly. Did you ever agree to process that consulting contract?" "No," I said. "I refused explicitly." "And did you ever make any unauthorized transactions?" "No. Everything I processed was legitimate and approved through proper channels." Angela nodded. "I recommend immediate suspension of the subject pending criminal referral." Oliver agreed. "We're moving forward with formal charges," he said. "And we're offering you your position back, plus a settlement for the wrongful termination and associated damages. We'll discuss numbers with your lawyer." I felt something release inside my chest. A pressure I'd been holding for months. It wasn't over yet, but for the first time I was on the winning side. 2 days later, the board asked to speak with me privately, without Harper present. I was nervous until Oliver explained. They needed to ask me about something specific, and they wanted my honest reaction before deciding how to proceed. I agreed, and Harper waited outside the boardroom. "We've been examining Adrian's financial accounts," Oliver began. He pulled out a document. "We found a pattern of transfers to an external account. The account is registered to a woman named Nicole Hammond." My breath caught. I knew the name. Nicole was someone Adrian had mentioned maybe twice in conversation. A consultant he'd worked with. I'd never met her, and I had no idea she existed as a physical person until now. "We've discovered," Michelle continued, "that this woman has been receiving regular payments from the company under the guise of consulting work. Over 2 years, she's received approximately $1.2 million. In addition to the $480,000, Gregory added, which appears to have been processed under a false company name. Do you know who Nicole Hammond is?" Oliver asked me directly. "No," I said. "I've heard the name maybe once or twice, but I don't know anything about her." The board members exchanged glances. "She's his girlfriend," Michelle said quietly. "We've verified it through private investigation. Adrian has been systematically stealing from the company and channeling the money to her." Felt sick. "This is significantly worse than we initially thought," Angela, the counsel, said. "This is not just fraud. This is embezzlement on a massive scale. We're referring this to the FBI." That night the story got worse. Ellen sent me a detailed summary of the findings. The FBI had already been contacted. Forensic accountants were being brought in. Adrian's financial records were being subpoenaed. And there was more. The Nicole Hammond Consulting Company didn't exist. It was a shell entity Adrian had created specifically to funnel company money to his girlfriend. But here's what made my skin crawl. Nicole Hammond was married. To someone else. Adrian had been having an affair, stealing company money to support his mistress, and setting me up to take the fall when the audit came. The board members had found evidence of texts between Adrian and Nicole discussing their plans. "When does the audit happen?" Nicole had asked. "Soon," Adrian replied. But Mara will be blamed for everything. It was calculated. It was cruel. And it was exactly what I'd suspected. Harper sent the next communication to Adrian's personal lawyer. Our client is providing testimony to federal authorities regarding financial crimes at Vertex Solutions. This is being done under whistleblower protection, and any retaliation will result in additional federal charges. We are prepared to pursue all civil remedies available under federal employment law. It was a warning shot. Adrian's lawyer responded within hours. My client denies all allegations and reserves the right to defend himself vigorously. But something shifted after that. The board froze all of Adrian's access to company systems. They suspended his credentials. They placed him on administrative leave, pending termination. And then, in a desperate move, Adrian did something incredibly stupid. He demanded a meeting with the board. He walked into their offices on a Monday morning, flanked by his personal lawyer, and insisted on confronting his accusers. The board let him in. Maybe they wanted to see what he would do. Maybe they wanted documentation of his reaction. Either way, it was recorded. I wasn't in the room, but Harper was watching via Zoom. She called me immediately after it ended. You need to hear this, she said. She replayed the audio for me. Adrian's voice was initially calm, almost confident. I don't know what accusations have been made, but I want to address them directly. I have never stolen from this company. I have never processed unauthorized payments. And I certainly have not blamed my assistant for financial crimes. Oliver's voice. We have documentation showing $1.2 million in transfers to an external account in the name of Nicole Hammond over 2 years. We also have a recording of you asking Ms. Collins to process and then delete a $480,000 consulting contract. How do you explain that? Long pause. Then Adrian's voice different now. Angry. Desperate. She set me up. She doctored those recordings. She stole company files. She's trying to destroy me because I wouldn't promote her. We have the original files, Ellen's voice said calmly. They're unchanged. We verified them with independent forensic experts. Another pause. Then Adrian lost it. This is bullshit. She's a nothing. A drone. She works for me and she thinks she can take me down. I'm going to destroy her. I'm going to sue her personally. I'm going to make sure she never works in this industry again. The sound of his voice breaking with rage was chilling. Mr. Blake, Angela's voice said, I'm advising you that this meeting is being recorded and will be provided to federal authorities. You should probably speak with your lawyer before saying anything else. The recording ended. Adrian showed up at the office the next day. It was stupid. He was on administrative leave. He had no legitimate reason to be there. But he came anyway and he walked straight to my desk. The entire office went silent. You did this, he said, his voice low and shaking. You're going to regret it. I didn't say anything. I'm going to take you down with me, he continued. I'm going to sue you personally. I'm going to tell everyone what you actually are. Thief. Liar. Security was already moving. 2 guards approached and escorted him out. He struggled, he shouted, he threatened. But they removed him from the building. Through the glass walls, I watched him being led toward the elevators, screaming my name and making promises of revenge. He was broken. And I had broken him. The next month was a blur of legal processes. Federal investigators interviewed me multiple times. They wanted to confirm every detail, every timeline, every bit of documentation. I provided everything. They subpoenaed Adrian's emails, his banking records, his phone communications. They interviewed Nicole Hammond, who initially claimed innocence but eventually admitted to receiving payments from a consulting contract that didn't involve actual work. The evidence was overwhelming. Every single transaction traced back to Adrian. Every lie traced back to Adrian. Every setup and manipulation traced back to Adrian. There was nothing connecting me to any of it except my refusal to participate. In fact, my refusal, and my willingness to document it, was what saved me. Harper sent me an update. The federal case is building nicely. They're prepared to file charges against Adrian for embezzlement, wire fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Nicole is cooperating in exchange for reduced charges. What about me? Yes. You're completely clear. Not even a question mark. You're the whistleblower, not the perpetrator. Adrian refused to resign. Instead, he demanded arbitration, a private hearing where he could defend himself against the company's claims and fight the termination. It was his last play. The arbitrator was a retired judge named Sullivan, chosen by both sides. Harper represented me and the company's interests. Adrian's personal lawyer represented him. Adrian showed up in an expensive suit, smirking like he was about to win. He didn't understand what was about to happen. Harper presented the case methodically. The recordings, the documentation, the bank records, the email evidence, the forensic analysis, the federal investigation findings. Took 3 hours. Adrian's lawyer tried to argue that the recordings were edited, that the documentation was fabricated, that I had somehow committed the crimes while framing him. None of it held water. The arbitrator, Sullivan, listened carefully but asked Adrian's lawyer very specific questions. Do you have independent forensic evidence that these recordings were altered?
No.
Do you have documentation showing that Ms. Collins had access to these bank accounts?
No.
Do you have any evidence that contradicts the timeline established by the audit team?
No.
By the end of the first day, it was clear. Adrian had lost before he walked in. The arbitrator's ruling came exactly 48 hours later. It was 4 pages of legal documentation, but the key points were simple. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that the respondent, Adrian Blake, engaged in systematic embezzlement, fraud, and witness intimidation. The complainant, Mara Collins, acted with integrity and refused to participate in illegal activities. Her termination via text message while on medical leave constitutes wrongful termination in violation of state and federal law. The company is ordered to reinstate Ms. Collins to her former position or equivalent, pay back wages for the period of wrongful termination, pay damages for emotional distress and reputational harm in the amount of $250,000, provide 1 year of paid mental health treatment. The respondent is ordered to immediately forfeit all claim to severance or benefits, pay the cost of the arbitration, comply with all federal criminal proceedings. I read it 3 times. $250,000. 1 year of therapy paid for. My job back. And Adrian with nothing. The board offered me Adrian's position. We'd like you to consider the role of Director of Operations, Oliver said in a meeting with me, Harper, and the company's counsel. It comes with a significant raise, full executive authority, and a seat at board meetings. You've already proven you can handle the responsibility, and frankly, you're the only person we trust to fix what he broke. I thought about my hospital bed. Text message. Fear. I thought about how close I'd come to being destroyed. And I said yes. My first day as Director of Operations, I walked past Adrian's old office. It was empty. His nameplate was gone. His furniture was being removed. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel revenge. Felt relief. And I felt something else. Purpose. The company had a lot of work to do to rebuild trust, to fix the financial mess, to repair the damage Adrian had caused. And I was going to lead that rebuilding. My final discovery came a month later. HR was cleaning out Adrian's office, and they found his personal phone, left behind in his desk drawer. It had been charging and it was still powered on. They gave it to legal, and legal sent me a sanitized summary of what they found. Draft messages to Nicole. Text conversations where he discussed his plans to frame me. Notes about how to manipulate HR. A recorded reminder to himself about how to eliminate the Mara problem before the audit. All of it was useless now. All of it was evidence of his guilt, his arrogance, his complete failure to understand that you can't manipulate people who are paying attention. I read the summary in my office. My new office with the view he'd always had, and I felt something close to sadness. Adrian hadn't just lost his job. He'd lost his reputation, his freedom, his future. Federal charges meant prison time. The embezzlement meant restitution. The affair meant a divorce he wasn't expecting. He'd destroyed himself. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences.